That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, so we haven't done this in a while, but we convinced Michael to come back on the channel. If y'all don't know, Michael is significantly better at fantasy baseball than I am. So if y'all enjoy this channel, if you're subscribed to this channel, there's no reason that you are not subscribed to his YouTube channel. Of course, he can tell you about it. The link will be in the description. Before we get into the video, Michael, is there anything you want to plug? And then we can jump right into it.
Just the Palazzo Podcast. It's part of the RotoFanatic Podcast Network. RotoFanatic.com is a fantasy baseball website. So we got everything you need. On the weekend, we come out with schedule factors for the next week, closing remarks for the bullpens, closers, figuring out who's going to get saves for the coming week, and our infirmary report. All of this comes out on Saturday and Sundays every weekend in preparation of following week, fantasy baseball. And I do a Sunday Night Fab show, 3 shows a week for the Palazzo Podcast. The Sunday Night Fab show is the live stream one. They're all live stream, but that's the one where you can get the most value when you're setting your lineups going into Monday. So I really want people to check out the Palazzo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's. We have a YouTube channel. We'd love your subscription.
Awesome. Well, the link to that will be in the description below. And I promise you guys, you're going to find a lot better information over there than you will here. But regardless, what we're going to do here is while we have Michael, instead of us talking about specific players, I need some deep strategy. I need some real fantasy baseball strategy. So we're going to cover a couple things in this video. We are going to be just going a little bit with it more freeform. I just have some of my own questions that I need to ask him. That way I can get better at this myself. That way I can try to be better whenever I advise you all to go after certain players. And the first thing I want to talk about, Michael, is we are getting to the point in the season now where I don't think we can just laugh at what's happened so far. I think we have to look at some of these sample sizes. I mean, some players are, a lot of players are over 100 plate appearances. I mean, we are getting to a range where it's not just, you can write everything off, you can overlook it, and we have to go with all of our pre-draft evaluations. At what point, Michael, are you willing to say, okay, these trends, they're here to stay. Maybe this is player to player. Maybe this is position to position. So first thing we can do is let's talk about a hitter that maybe you were not too excited about, not just really wanting to avoid, but you were more so with consensus on where he was coming into the season. And then he has a massive breakout performance. With that guy at this point in the year, are you looking to maybe sell? Are you looking to just ride it out? I mean, a guy that is perfect for this would be someone like Vlad Jr., which I understand that you were very high on him coming into the season. You came on the channel and you told people to target him in drafts. So maybe that isn't the perfect example. I just want to give people an idea of who we're talking about. But yeah, please fill us in here. What kind of value should we be seeing from the difference between our pre-draft evaluations to where those hot hitters are at this point?
I'll tell you right now, Mason, it's great to be back on the channel, by the way. I love being on Mason Dodd's Fantasy Flock channel. I will tell you this. It's not time to panic just yet. We still got a lot of baseball to be played. I mean, we still got May, June, July, August, September. That's a ton of time. And the amount of injuries we've seen so far may cause a lot of panic, but I don't believe that they're actually up a great amount. Some people are saying, I said it myself coming into 2021, that the short season would throw players off. It would ruin all the routines and cause more injuries, which would lead to more chaos. And it kind of seems like that right now, but I don't think the numbers are saying that we're way, way up when it comes to injuries. So I wouldn't panic right now. A guy like Nick Solak for the Rangers was a guy that I really liked. He was, ADP was 162-ish, in that kind of later part of the hundreds. And he's performed pretty well. He's been pretty darn good. Ty France is another guy who was way down the list even farther. He's been outstanding. These are 2 guys that I really like coming into the season. And I'm currently asking myself, should I move? Should I sell now? Should I sell high? Did I already get the value out of them that I was expecting to get? What if they don't keep it up all year? What if they peter out? I am asking myself that question, and I think at this time I'm still holding because I believe in what I did. If you have a process that you believed in, or if you have an analyst that you trusted from the beginning, stick with it. Do not panic yet. Calm down. Let's see what happens in May with the start of the minor league season, which is starting this week. We're finally getting AAA and AA baseball back. Thank God. That's going to really allow some players that are struggling to go down and get at bats they wouldn't get because they're going to be in actual games. So let's see what happens here. I don't think we should ring the fire alarm just yet.
Well, can you either confirm or tell me that I am just using my monkey brain and saying that My initial thought would be like a guy like the perfect example of this would be Vlad Jr., where you look at him and you go, okay, he does have a very wide range of outcomes. Nobody coming into the season was saying he didn't have the potential to do what he's doing now. I think even if you didn't like him, even if you thought he was being overdrafted, at the very least, you could acknowledge the fact that he had this type of ceiling to put up this next step. So maybe a player like that, you look in a little bit of a different light rather than someone who's 33 years old, someone that we've had multiple seasons where he's already had 600 plate appearances, and then he hasn't shown what he is doing so far. I think that what I would recommend myself is to go through and the player that did take that leap, that player that you were looking at going, yes, he could break out. I'm unsure of it yet. But if he does, then you give that player a little bit more of a benefit of the doubt rather than just going, it's a small sample we can sell compared to someone who's maybe 33 years old. Someone that, like I said, we have seen just say over
JD
2,500
Martinez
plate
fits that
appearances.
profile.
And then you go, okay, this is not who they are. This is someone we can go sell. So that's why I kind of figured it's player to player, but let me know if I am wrong in that thought process, or is it just as simple as that?
Well, JD Martinez fits that profile. He is 33 years old, but he's been electric. Are we expecting that to continue? We're not looking at JD Martinez's career in the same fashion that we are with Vlad's. You know, Vlad, we could, those of us who believed in Vlad, expecting him to grow and go upwards. He's on an upward trajectory. JD Martinez kind of at that, we thought maybe he was slipping, but it looks like the way he's crushed the ball so far, all the stats, the StatCast data, everything, the deep peripheral numbers and the surface stats are saying JD Martinez is very happy that he's got in-house video back and he's crushing the ball. But in my home league, I saw him traded for a team that was really struggling, had JD Martinez, sold him 4 days ago. This is a head-to-head league, so it's categories, but it's also a keeper league. We keep 10 players. But he sold JD Martinez for Joe Adell, Andrew Vaughn, and some draft picks. I thought that was a little too soon, but I actually can see why he made that deal, because if JD Martinez starts to slip, you may lose that value that he has right now, because people are, this is it. I always do believe generally in selling at the highest point. And JD Martinez right now is a guy who's at that very high point. He also could get hurt, and he is not always durable, but he doesn't play the field every day either. So I think I'm happy with, I'm not somebody who's like locked in with the status on a player 24/7. I gauge the information as it comes in. If a deal strikes you all of a sudden that is so good that you can't pass it up, take it. But if you don't have that deal, don't think that you have to do anything. You should never feel that you have to do anything in fantasy at any time.
Well, I think that's great to round up the hitter discussion. Do you want to go over to the starting pitchers real quick and just nail on these? Because I think it's a little bit different here where you're not, yes, you're not seeing the large sample of where they have themselves 100 plate appearances. Maybe you can make the excuse of someone going out. And we've seen this a couple times already this season where you'll have a pitcher go out that has good season long numbers. And I'll have one start where he can only make it through 2 innings. He gives up in those 2 innings, just say 6 runs and 8 hits to go along with it. And then it tanks his season long numbers because of that. So with those pitchers, is the sample size that we are looking at just one and the same, or are we going to be approaching this position a little bit different? Like someone like Tyler Glasnow, where, I mean, you pull him up right now, ERA under 2, WHIP under 1. The strikeout per inning ratio is absolutely absurd. So how does this change from the hitters to the pitchers and what you're doing with guys that are starting hot versus guys that maybe are starting cold?
Well, with Glasnow, we're seeing a guy who's developing a third pitch. That's the key to his breakout, to his sustainability. Most of the naysayers of Glasnow say, oh, he's a 2-pitch pitcher and he's just going to get, people are going to wait on the fastball and they're going to crush it because they know he only has 2 offerings that are worth a damn. But we're seeing this development of the third pitch now. And if he has all 3 pitches working at once, this is a permanent change and you can buy into that. But then you have a guy like Kenta Maeda, who's really struggled to start the year. Also drafted right in ADP where Glasnow was, basically in the 40s, 45-ish, 40 to 5 to 50 range ADP.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. They're 48.9 for Glasnow, and Kenta is 49.4, right back and back.
There you go. So Maeda has struggled. He's pitching tonight, actually. We're recording this on a Monday, and I'm expecting him to turn it around and get it going because he looks like a mess on the surface. It's like, oh wow, everything. He has thrown a lot of pitches. He hasn't been able to get through his outings more than 4 or 5 innings at most. And he's not played like the world beaters. He's played Cleveland. Cleveland's offense has 2 players that are pretty good. Otherwise, they're a crapshoot. They're not really reliable. So I think it's all case by case basis, and every pitcher deserves more time. But in terms of the overall viewpoint, you're talking about hitters versus pitchers and small sample sizes. How much is enough to gauge? I think with pitchers, we need a little bit more time because it's just tough. Pitching is a unique thing that you do with your body. It's not natural necessarily to throw it as hard as these guys throw it, and getting in a rhythm and keeping all of those mechanics like spot on and organized. It's very complicated. It's not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of relaxation and command. And that's why command is so tough to do, because you have to be totally focused on your task. And pitching is one of the most things that will be, I think hitting a golf ball is pretty hard, but pitching is right there. People think about hitting a baseball is harder. I think pitching is harder than hitting a baseball because it requires so many things to go right all at once. And that is why we need to give these guys more time. I believe Kenta Maeda is going to have a big turnaround here, so I'm going to wait it out. And if I end up being wrong, then this video will look pretty dumb, won't it?
See, that's what I was more so asking, because I couldn't find a way to word it. But as a hitter, worst case scenario, say you have a very bad day, you wake up, you're not feeling well. Okay, you go up and just say you go up to the plate 4 times, you don't get on base a single time, you go over 4. Okay, season long, that's not going to look too bad. That's not going to affect your numbers too poorly. But if you're a pitcher and you're like, oh crap, I got to get on the mound tonight and I am just not feeling it, then that's when it can go horribly wrong. That's when one day can just completely tank you. And that's why I was asking if there's a difference in how we are looking at these guys season long at this point in the year when we are only so few games in.
Oh, and one thing is a blow-up start can really exploit the numbers more so than a big night for a hitter can. If, like German Marquez, his walk rate looks high, but if you actually look at German Marquez's numbers, he had one start where he walked a bunch of guys, but other than that, he's really reduced the walks. So make sure you look at game logs. This is a key piece of information for hitters, pitchers, all fantasy players. Make sure you look at the game logs, last 10 games. I always like to look at last 7, last 10, last 14 days to see what's been happening, because one start more so than a hitter for a pitcher can exploit the numbers and make it look much, much worse than maybe it actually is.
Awesome. Well, I think that's probably all we got. Thank you again, Michael, for coming on. We really needed you at this point of the season. We needed you to not necessarily even help the people watching this video. You needed to help me. That way I can make videos going forward and do so confidently. So thank you again. And of course, tell people where they can find you, because I promise you guys, you're going to get way more from Michael than you're going to get from me.
Well, I work in concert with Mason. He has me on the channel, and I really appreciate that. I'll be happy to come back and keep talking baseball all season long. But you can find me at the Palazzo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's. Just type in Palazzo Podcast in YouTube, and you can find our channel. 3 shows a week, Sunday, Wednesday, Fridays. Real easy. We check in Sunday night with Fab. We check in midweek, and then we go into the weekend on Fridays. We're there for you, and it's a lot of fun. We also have a good time. I love to talk baseball, but we'd like to have a few laughs too. So if you want to be entertained and you want to learn a thing or two, then come by the Palazzo Podcast.
I want to give a big thank you for everyone supporting the show in Benjamin, Bill, Jason, Matthew, Hutton, Sean, Freddie's Berto, Andy, Frederick, and Chris.